This is WVBN from Great Britain. After the daring exfiltration of Team T from Romania with a sample recovered from disease there, Dr. Vane requested it for her own research. The UK government believed that in light of her recent incident in the Seychelles, she was effectively on probation for the time being, and would not be given free access to MTech recovered by Britain. This reportedly upset the scientist quite greatly. Nevertheless, most realized that she was determined to use her mind to uncover the secrets of MTech, with or without the UK. The Royal Australian Navy was informed by High Command that their ban on recruits not of European origin was unacceptable under present circumstances, and that all able-bodied hands must be allowed into the Navy. Though many grumbled, most reluctantly conceded that this was true given the severity and rate of Morgana attacks. After recent German attacks, the air defenses of Scapa Flow began to be improved, as the latest raid saw only 2 of the 32 German bombers be shot down. An RAF base is to be constructed southeast of Kirkwall for a permanent garrison, while talks of requisitioning Spitfires for local carrier use was paused for the time being. The RAF itself launched retaliatory strikes against Germany, to great success. Royal Navy captains decided not to violate the Zurich Agreement when a convoy of German vessels sailed towards Iceland under League of Nations flag. This time, reports back in Britain swiftly made their way to the public and led to a national outcry that the Royal Navy was allowing the Germans to win the war against Britain unopposed. This blow to their reputation led to a new missive handed down from High Command, that all German vessels, regardless of flag or purpose, were to be engaged on sight. Failure to comply with this order would result in dire consequences. The Narvik convoy's journey from the Mediterranean to Norway saw Spanish vessels unload several officers to both Italian and Japanese vessels, and a refusal by all to disclose their purpose. Given the markedly colder reception both navies had begun to give the British afterwards, some worried whether an intelligence leak was causing issues concerning Pembroke 7. The ship in question was put under close guard and eventually arrived safely in Britain, where she was handed off to the relevant authorities. The convoy continued to Narvik without incident, and while the Japanese and Italians set about their own duties, the Royal Scots and Rawalpindi received special orders for the security of Britain. Reconstruction efforts on Royal Oak continued on schedule, with Britain, like many other nations, attempting to assist and awaken her latent belle by bringing any vestures they could think of to the ship. When afternoon tea and scones, deliberately left out, were mysteriously replaced by a note thanking the workers and requesting clouded clean next time, most could only assume their efforts were working. In the Far East, Vice Admiral Geoffrey Layton was chosen as the leader of the British forces joining the attack on Guam, which saw many British vessels begin preparations for the attack. The land component of Britain would consist of soldiers from the Indian Expeditionary Forces, ferried by HMS Queen Elizabeth. Members of the Admiralty, alongside the First Sea Lord, agreed that the training of additional commando units for the requisition and capture of MTech and other sensitive tasks was essential for Britain's war effort. Said MTech research, such as many objects recovered from Heligoland, would also be shipped to Norfolk, the hub of Morgana research, aboard the old warship Centurion. With seditions broadcasts centering around the Dominion of South Africa, the local townsfolk began to riot after her accusations of illicit actions by the Royal Navy. With only a token force to defend the local area, the Royal Navy was unable to go after sedition to stop the broadcasts. Mysteriously, however, a mere week later, the broadcasts went silent, replaced by a calming voice encouraging the disenfranchised to set themselves free of their chains, and that the present civilized state of being was one to be proud of, to live in, thanks to the efforts of those who settled the land. It is unknown what happened to sedition, nor who the mysterious voice was. The Belles of Nubian and Cossack managed to disable and board a ghost ship in the North Atlantic. The results of the boarding are classified. We also have an extended report concerning the sinking of HMS Courageous. A reporter on the ground reported that the fleet was on patrol towards Scapa Flow, hunting German U-boats while awaiting nearby reinforcements. A submarine was spotted, and while the fleet took evasive maneuvers, it was too late, as 3 torpedoes exploded into Courageous, blowing holes in her hull and destroying her rudder. Nearby destroyers were ordered to assist in the evacuation of the sinking vessel, while Courageous's air ring was able to take off before the runway was unusable. The destroyers began to swarm the waters, attempting to sink the U-boats, when another torpedo was spotted heading towards the carrier. Another explosion could doom the remaining crew, so the destroyer Vimy attempted to intercept it with her own hull. Moments before the torpedo could hit the destroyer, an explosion rocked just off her bow. The crew looked up to see Vimy Bell, dressed as a member of the Canadian Forces of the Great War, had detonated the torpedo with a well-aimed can of soup. Despite this, it was not enough to save Courageous, who finally sank beneath the waves. All vessels and personnel involved were pardoned, in part thanks to Vimy's testimony that the torpedoes must have come from an unbelled German U-boat, and that the destroyers had distinguished themselves, saving 70% of Courageous's air group and nearly her entire crew. It was instead Coastal Command who took the blame, for failing to patrol the undersea threats so close to Britain. The surviving vessels returned to Portsmouth. Any attempts to raise Courageous were denied, citing the threat of German U-boats. While awaiting their next assignment, Vimy took to watching the sea from a chair on her deck, and requested additional depth charges as well as a wooden board to keep track of the U-boats she intended to sink. This has been WVBN from Great Britain.